Bombshell. Joining us tonight, Nolan's friends' lawyers fight back. Who's telling the truth? They think they know, but do they? I'm Nancy Grace. This is Crime Stories. I want to thank you for being with us. The Cox. Also with us, another veteran trial lawyer, Edward Pulsick, attorney for the boys as well. Actually, they're not boys. They're adults in the eyes of the law due to their age. Gentlemen, thank you for being with us tonight. My first question to clear up this matter: have your clients taken polygraphs? First to you, Tyler Cox.
Nancy, my clients have not taken a polygraph test. And I can tell you why. Because any lawyer worth their salt is going to tell their clients not to take a polygraph test under any circumstances. Two of my clients went in and made statements with me. We're not going to not going to do a polygraph test because, one, as you know, they're not admissible in court. And so it wasn't going to be admissible anyway. You should never, ever, if you're a lawyer, allow your clients to take a polygraph test. Now, we allowed investigators from the jump to have access to their phones, their Life 360, everything. We have cooperated implicitly every step of the way. But no, they didn't take polygraph tests. But what I'll tell you is one of the other boys, their name, but I'm sure that you've heard, took one. The girl that Nolan was with, analysis voice tests, and so did the other boy. So that's the test they took. Both of them passed. And so, again, no lawyer worth of salt is going to tell his clients to take a polygraph test or anything like that.
I would like to corroborate part of what Tyler Cox just said. Any defense attorney, whether they're convinced, truly convinced their client is innocent or guilty, they're not going to allow a poly. I've never seen that. I've had a couple of lawyers, maybe 3, and all the years I practiced, all the people I put behind bars, consent before trial to a poly. 3. And they were all criminal cases that carried severe penalties. So what he's saying is true. Even if you think your client is innocent, very rarely will you see a defense lawyer say, sure, take a poly. However, I disagree with you regarding their admittance into court. Polygraphs are allowed in civil trials. O.J. Simpson, he flunked horribly. And if both sides stipulate to the polygraph's admittance before the polygraph is taken, it can come into a criminal trial. The reality is that never happens. That never happens.
Right. At the time that we first cooperated with police, the first very week, the 2 days after the disappearance of Nolan Wells, we're not thinking about a civil suit. We're not thinking about that. We're thinking about how can we provide as much information to authorities so that they can find Nolan Wells. And it was not until after we spoke to officers and investigators that Nolan, unfortunately, his body was found on Horn Island, washed up. And it's unfortunate. And I hate that for Nolan because by all accounts, he was an incredible person. He was just truly remarkable in almost every sense of the word. But I mean, we're not thinking about a civil suit at that point in time. We're trying to help authorities find our friend who we can't find either.
Edward Pulsick joining us in addition to Tyler Cox, both of them veteran trial lawyers. He is with Taylor Dykema. Edward, how did you get involved in this case?
Well, I'd rather not talk about that. I can just tell you this. I can tell you that it was through a friend of a friend.
You're kidding, right? You're kidding me. Because when you tell me I'd rather not answer,
well, I want to
that's
protect
just
the names. I
igniting me to find out how
Well,
you
hold
got
on.
involved in the
Well,
case.
Well, hold on. I can tell you a little bit more. I can tell you this. I can tell you a close friend who knows the Ocean Springs, Mississippi community very, very well, is from the area, connected me to a friend of his. And then I found myself speaking to Tyler here. And Tyler and I instantly became very close friends. We both have blue pickup trucks, so now we're the Blues Brothers. We just became very close. We hit it off. Then I had the opportunity to speak to Warren, speak to Morgan, speak to Jax, and we hit it off also. And I immediately realized these are incredibly fine young men. I realized
Okay,
right
hold
away
on.
I wanted to help them out.
Ed, to you and Tyler, I'm not saying they have lied, and I'm not saying they haven't lied. I don't know. I have no reason to disbelieve your clients or to believe them. But you do know that people can look you right in the face and lie through your teeth, and you believe them. I've done it. I've had witnesses that I found out were lying to me, and it was a huge blow. I've had police officers. I worked a child trafficking case. My first child trafficking case. Worked it. I finally found the little girl. I went into a room full of sex workers. They went, she's in there. I'm like, there's no child in there. They went, she's the one in the white boots. She looked like she was 38 years old. She's 14. That said, we won the case. But fast forward about 10 months later, I was walking through the grand jury room and I saw these horrible federal court sketches. I'm like, oh my stars, is that who I think it is? It was my vice cops. They had been stealing from dopers and they got indicted by the feds. And I had been out on the street with them every day for months trying to prove a child trafficking case. So just because somebody tells you the sky is blue does not mean the sky is blue. You do know that, right?
Well, I can tell you this: they were off Horn Island at 4:30 p.m. on July 4th, and Nolan Wells was seen alive.
Now we're getting somewhere. How can you prove that to me other than them telling you? I assume you've got GPS tracking and the call to CETO?
We have witnesses among other things, but I can also tell you this: they were off the island at 4:30 p.m. and Nolan Wells was seen alive by multiple. Tyler would be happy to elaborate on that. But this is a no doubt, 100%.
Please tell me, Tyler,
yes.
because I don't believe any of these people, and I don't disbelieve any of these people. I want to hear about after 4:30 because I believe I can confirm the boat left around 4:30, and I'm referring to the Triton. That's the boat they were on. There are a lot of boats. Let's see the video of all the boats out there. So when I say Triton, Nolan was on the way to the island. There's a lot of boats out there and a lot of witnesses too. This is from the Officer Tatum. Okay. There are witnesses placing him there at 6. And I want to be very convinced he drowned just because somebody said so. Even if he did drown, that does not mean that there wasn't foul play. Why is that mark on the back of his head? Was he hit on the head and fell in the water? Was he held under the water? Was it? But I am very interested in witnesses that place him alive at 6 p.m. Please tell me, Tyler Cox.
So, Nancy, look, reach out to us. 2 confirmed witnesses that saw Nolan Wells on the island around 6 p.m. on July 4th. Well after the Triton, as you said, left around. And so those witnesses have went to investigators. They've talked to the police, and they've done what they're supposed to do. We've cooperated 100%. So has
Where did they see him, Tyler Cox? Where did the witnesses see them enough to make a positive ID? Hey, speaking of a positive ID, Control Room, please pull up a photo that we showed a couple of days ago. There are 2 or 3 women, white females, walking along the beach, as I recall, each clad in a bikini. There is one, I believe, a white male. Can you zoom in a little bit? That's not really helping me that much. For instance, Did your witnesses know Nolan? Can they identify him? Because I'm looking right at this and I cannot identify if the male behind the female on the white, the female wearing a white hat, I can't tell if that's Nolan or not. It's a very blurry photo. I can't make it out. So, do your witnesses know him? Mr. Cox, I know the two of you. I don't see both of them. There they are. The two of you have tried a lot of cases, as have I. To get in or attack an eyewitness, and it's in the code, the official code of Mississippi annotated. There are prescribed methods under which you cross-examine an eyewitness. For instance, does the witness know the target? Was the lighting sufficient? How far away was the witness? What were the conditions of the eyewitness identification? Was the eyewitness inebriated or high or otherwise incapacitated? How far away were they? Do they wear glasses? It goes on and on and on. It's laid out in the code. Tell me about these witnesses. How do they know it was Nolan? Hey, control room, show me that picture of Nolan on the boat. He's bent over. All I can see are his legs. I think that's Nolan because it matches his swimsuit. Did they see that? How can they identify Nolan? First to you, Tyler.
Well, the witnesses saw that picture that you just put on screen, but I can confirm to you that these witnesses know Nolan. They've known him for a long time. They were able to make a positive ID, and they told that to investigators. They told them that from the very start.
Had they been drinking?
That I do not know.
How are they sure it was 6 o'clock? Look, I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm asking the questions I would ask in court. How do they know it was 6 o'clock? Did they go, oh, there's Nolan Wells at 6 p.m.?
Well, I'm pretty sure, Nancy, they were aware of the time. I'm not sure if they were drinking or not, but they're the ones that came forward to police and investigators, and that's their story to tell. What I'm telling you is they made a positive ID on Nolan Wells around 6 o'clock, and they told that to investigators, all while our clients were off the island around 4:30. So we have positive identification on Nolan on the island. And as you know, from your experience as a prosecutor, two things at once. They can't be on the island at 6 o'clock and be on the boat going off the island at 4:30. So that's where we are. Our clients have nothing to do with the death of Nolan Wells. We don't know how he died. We want to know. Please tell us. Somebody. We want to know just as much as anyone else. Our clients loved Nolan Wells. They were brothers to Nolan Wells. I've still yet to hear one bad thing about Nolan Wells. He was a good Ocean Springs kid. At the time in the courtroom, these are good Ocean Springs people. So Nolan was a good Ocean Springs person too. They love Nolan. We want to know. Will someone please
just stop right there,
tell us?
Tyler. And nobody's running from miscongeniality. Let's just let it be noted, judicial notice. They were all good. Everybody's good. Okay. Tyler.
Yes.
The witnesses that came forward. Here's something that would tend to corroborate them is if multiple witnesses said the same thing. Witnesses separated in time and space. Witnesses that are not all friends. Witnesses that are not good friends with your clients, that may have a reason to be fuzzy on the time. I'm not saying they are or that they're not. Here's my question to you. Are these witnesses friends of your clients?
I don't think they're friends, and they're not even the same age.
Okay. Next question. How many witnesses place him there on the island at 6-ish?
At least two that I know.
2. Do the witnesses know each other?
Yes.
Were they together that day?
Yes.
Have they had a chance to discuss their recollections with each other before they came to police?
Well, I'm sure they did. Nancy, look, they did what they were supposed to do, and they spoke to police officers. And you know as well as I do that if any sort of probable cause to make an arrest in a case like this, they would have.
Or they may be gathering evidence to make sure until I had all the evidence, including a completed autopsy. You know what? I'm going to jump ahead. But regarding the body, regarding Nolan's body, we've heard all sorts of inflammatory things. But the one thing that, well, many things are very interesting and probative. For instance, why was Nolan's neck of so much interest to the original medical exam removed? His toe wasn't removed. His ear wasn't removed. Why his neck? The lungs and the neck were removed, which obviously Edward Pulsick touches on. I understand why the medical examiner took his lungs. He had to run tests on them to determine, did he drown? Of course, all three of us know you can drown and there still be foul play. Somebody whacked you on the head. If somebody held you underwater, it could be any number of things. Or it could be an innocent drowning. But why the throat? What was curious about the throat, Ed? Were there marks on the throat? Was there a ligature mark? Was there manual strangulation? Was there a compression? Were there bruises? Were there scratches? I don't know. Was a hyoid missing? I could go on, but I won't. Do either of you know what was of interest to the medical examiner in the removal of Nolan's throat?
I'll tell you this. Listen, we're not coroners. We're not medical examiners. We want to know what happened to him just as much as everyone else. Quite frankly, more. Warren, Morgan, Jax, and we haven't examined Nolan's body. We're not scientists.
I just thought maybe you had been somehow told why they took his throat. Okay, that's a note. We don't know why they took his throat.
Yeah, we don't want to speculate.
Let me start with an open-ended question to you gentlemen. I started with, why haven't they taken a polygraph? I want to hear what your clients are saying happened that day, because my interest is piqued because you stated a young lady, and I assume this is Katie, the mysterious Katie, who turns out not to be that mysterious at all. Much was made of that. Now, one thing about Katie, originally, one or some of your clients said he was with some girl, we don't know her. Then it turned out they had been texting with her, so they did know her. There may be an innocent explanation for that or not. So, explain to me, who were they talking about when they said he was with a girl, we don't know her? He had never met her before, but yet they were texting with Katie, the girl he had been with. I'll throw that to you, Tyler. Do you know the answer to that?
Sure. So they didn't know Katie, and they believe that Nolan didn't know Katie before that day. But you have to remember, once they started getting suspicious that Nolan wasn't with them anymore, they start asking themselves, okay, well, where's Nolan? They start texting everyone. Do you know where Nolan is? Did he make it back home? All before they called Christine Wells that night, they start asking everybody. And so eventually they end up getting, through mutual friends, whoever, Katie's number. And so I believe it was maybe either Snapchat or text message. They got in communication with Katie. And Katie says, I don't know. We thought that's the case, obviously, because he did not leave with our boys. We don't know what happened to him, but that's Katie's statement. That's how they got a hold of Katie's numbers, because they're frantically trying to find out.
I think he's saying they did know Katie. I couldn't tell if he said did or didn't. Did he say they all did know Katie?
No, they did not.
They didn't know Katie. All right. And they determined who she was. Okay.
Right.
Hey, hold on. Tyler, you stated your clients, began to get suspicious. Where is Nolan? When did they get suspicious?
It was later that night. I believe it was around 9 or 10 o'clock, maybe even 11, that they start saying, oh, well, has anyone seen Nolan? Where's Nolan? Did he make it back home? Does anybody know? They start calling around, texting, asking everybody. And once they've once they determined that no one had the answer about where Nolan was, that's when they called Christine Wells. And then they stay on the phone. My client stayed on the phone with Christine Wells for about 5 or 6 minutes.
So, veteran trial lawyer. Ed, do you concur with that explanation of why they first said, I don't know her, we don't know her, he didn't know her, and then we find out that they had actually been texting with Katie? What's your understanding of that? Again, I had my favorite trial judge, Luther Alverson, would tell every jury, it is your duty to make all witnesses speak the truth. What does that mean? To reconcile the different seemingly conflicting stories to make everyone be telling the truth and impugn perjury on no one. So maybe there's an explanation for this. Why do they say, we don't know her, and then they're texting her? So they did know her.
That characterization, they didn't say that. There's no contradiction. I can just tell you this. They didn't know her. Nolan was with her much of the day. And he was still on the island when they left. Spent much of the day with this young lady. That seems to be what happened. But no, there was this young lady was not part of their friend group. That's right.
Okay, so when they say they didn't know her, but yet they were texting her, they did know her name.
Well, I don't know if I agree with that characterization. Yeah, the
well,
premise.
Enlighten me. I want to know.
Is flawed. Yeah, the premise is flawed. She's not part of their friend group. They don't know her. I can tell you that it does appear, once again, it appears that Nolan was with this young lady for much of the day. That does seem to be confirmed by many witnesses. And I could tell you this, Nancy, one thing about this island, I did have the opportunity to go to Horn Island. And when you go to the island, to make sense, the first picture was maybe not so accurate. If you go to the part of Horn Island where, these events all occurred, you see that there are really no trees on that part of the island. It's flat, it's open, there are no visual obstructions, so there's no trees, there's no shelter, there's no nothing, and it was broad daylight with thousands of people there. Meaning there was no opportunity for foul. And that's where this whole thing starts to unravel.
Ed,
you have to go to the island.
Please,
you have to go to the
there's
island.
opportunity for foul play. He could have been walked on the head on a boat and pushed over.
I'm telling you, not in this environment.
It doesn't have to be on the beach. It could be anywhere.
You got to understand, it's a 10-mile long barrier island, but it's only a few hundred yards wide in most places.
The video, and show it to Ed and Tyler, the video of all those boats. Anything could have happened between those boats. Anything.
Well, but
even an
Nancy,
accident could happen between those boats. And
Nancy,
so many people are drunk, I don't think they're paying attention.
But here's the thing. An asteroid could strike right now. But I am telling you that there are a lot of people who have talked about this case and have said things that are not true, and they haven't been to the island. They've got to go to the island. If you don't go to the island, you can't speak with the people who have hurt these fine young men and have defamed them. They've never visited the island, and I'm willing to bet that they've never visited the islands. Look at it right there. That shot you have right there. Broad daylight with thousands of people there. It speaks for itself.
I agree with what you're saying. I agree that it would be nearly impossible for foul play to take place on that beach. Again, I direct your attention to the gathering. Everybody's drinking. Nobody's paying attention. Like, I can't tell what's going on between the boats at a distance. I don't know. I don't know what's happening in the water. I don't know. That
well, I can tell you this.
I agree. I don't think anything happened each, but there are other alternatives.
I want to add, though, we have a difference of opinion. When I see that video of the boats in the water there, a good place to get away with murder. Now, we have been very careful. We have refrained from guessing, and we're going to continue to do that. However, plain view of that scene, the beach, the boats, the water, that is not a secretive environment. It just isn't.
I agree. The beach is not secretive because there's really nowhere to hide. Guys, let me move to the boat, the Triton. Has the boat been searched by authorities?
I do not believe that it has been searched by authorities, but it's been available to authorities this entire time. If authorities wanted to come see it, they're more than able to, and have been.
Okay, I find that very interesting, Tyler, and I'll tell you why. In so many cases that I've prosecuted and covered and investigated, you see defendants, targets, trying to get rid of evidence. You see them cleaning the boat. You see them washing it down. You see them trying all sorts of methods to get rid of evidence. It's interesting to me and somewhat probative that your clients have offered the boat up to law enforcement to come and search it. I'm curious, has the boat not just been searched with the naked eye? Has luminol been used on the boat? Has alternative light sources been used on the boat? Has a cadaver dog come to the boat? Has a scent dog come to the boat? To your knowledge, either one of you.
To my knowledge, Nancy, I do not believe that has happened. But again, my 3 clients, either one of them, none of them own that boat. So if it has, you would have to ask the owners.
Tyler, do I look like I just fell off the turnip truck? Maybe I do, because we did sell turnips at the farmer's market when I was growing up. That said, you telling me my clients don't own the boat, so you'd have to ask the owner. Come on, you and Paulsick know if the boat has been searched. You know if cadaver dogs or scent dogs, luminol or alternative light has been used on the boat. Can you just tell me? Yes, no. It's not your client's fault. It's law enforcement's fault if they haven't done it.
If authorities thought that there was something to find on that boat, don't you think this far out they would have already done it?
I would think in the ordinary course of an investigation into potential foul play, I would have gone out there and done it. Just
But if you believe there was
asking-
potential foul play.
to say I searched it and it was clean. I didn't find any blood.
Well, Nancy,
Cadaver
you're
dog
asking a
didn't
valid.
hit.
Hold on, you're asking a valid question. You're just asking the wrong people. That's a question for law enforcement.
To your knowledge, has it been searched? Have you been told by anyone that it was searched?
I don't have
I have
any
not been told
involvement
that,
with the
no.
law enforcement. I don't have any involvement in the investigation.
It was supposed to be a celebration. July 4th, 2025. The Gulf Coast was alive with the sound of music, laughter, and fireworks. Thousands of people flooded the waters off Mississippi, heading toward one of the most popular holiday destinations in the region, Horn Island, a 10-mile-long barrier island sitting in the Gulf Islands National Seashore, accessible only by boat. Among the crowds that day was a young man named Nolan Wells from Ocean Springs, Mississippi. By every account from people who knew him, Nolan was the kind of person who made a room better just by walking into it. Warm, genuine, and well-liked throughout his community. He boarded a boat called the Triton with a group of friends and headed out to the island to celebrate the holiday like so many others were doing that day. He never came home. If you are watching this for the first time and you want to follow every new development as this story continues to unfold, now is a good time to subscribe to True Crime Dav and hit the like button so this video reaches people who deserve to know the truth. Horn Island is not the kind of place most people outside of Mississippi think about when they imagine a holiday destination. It is raw and exposed. Flat stretches of sand, sparse vegetation, and open water as far as the eye can see. On the 4th of July, it transforms into something closer to a floating city, with hundreds of boats anchored close together and thousands of people spilling onto the shoreline. Nolan arrived on the island with his friends that morning. The day moved the way those kinds of days always do, slowly at first, then all at once. At some point during the afternoon, Nolan drifted away from the group and spent time with a young woman named Katie, someone who was not part of his friend group and who, according to the friend's attorneys, Nolan had not previously known before that day. What exactly happened between the time Nolan was last seen with his group and the hours that followed is the central question that investigators, attorneys, family members, and the public have been wrestling with ever since. According to attorneys Tyler Cox and Edward Pulsifer, who represent several of the young men who were on the Triton that day, The boat left Horn Island at approximately 4:30 in the afternoon on July 4th. They maintain that Nolan Wells was not on board when it departed. They further state that GPS data and phone records corroborate the departure time, and that the friends voluntarily surrendered their phones to law enforcement for full data dumps in the days immediately following Nolan's disappearance. But then comes the detail that changes everything. According to those same attorneys, at least 2 witnesses have come forward stating that they saw Nolan Wells alive on Horn Island at approximately 6 o'clock in the evening, roughly 90 minutes after the Triton had already left. These witnesses, the attorneys say, personally knew Nolan and were able to make a positive identification. They were not part of the friend group, were not the same age as the young men on the Triton, and they independently reported what they saw to law enforcement investigators. If that account is accurate, it would mean that Nolan was still alive and on the island long after his friends had returned to the mainland. The friends, identified publicly as Warren, Morgan, and Jax, have cooperated with law enforcement from the very beginning, according to their legal representatives. Attorneys Cox and Pulsifer state that 2 of their clients gave formal statements to investigators, with counsel present within the first day or 2 of Nolan's disappearance. The Triton itself was made available to law enforcement, though it reportedly had not been subjected to a formal forensic examination as of the time of these statements. Questions were raised publicly about whether the friends had submitted to polygraph tests. The attorneys were direct on this point. Their clients did not take polygraph examinations, and both attorneys were emphatic that no competent defense lawyer would advise a client to take one regardless of guilt or innocence, not because the clients had anything to hide, but because polygraphs are not admissible as evidence in most criminal proceedings and carry significant risk even for innocent individuals. One other individual connected to the case reportedly took a voice stress analysis test, as did Katie, the young woman Nolan had spent time with on the island. Both reportedly passed. Early in the public conversation surrounding this case, Officer Brandon Tatum, a prominent YouTube commentator, conducted an on-camera interview with Warren, one of the young men from the Triton. During that coverage, it was reported that the friends had taken polygraph-equivalent tests and passed. The attorneys later clarified that what had been described as a polygraph was in fact a voice stress analysis, a different methodology. This distinction, while technical, became a flashpoint in a case already thick with conflicting information. The issue of Katie also emerged as a point of confusion that demanded explanation. In early accounts, the friends reportedly described her as someone they did not know. It later came out that they had been in contact with her via text or Snapchat the night of Nolan's disappearance. The attorneys addressed this directly. Their clients did not know Katie before that day. After Nolan went missing, they frantically contacted everyone they could think of and eventually obtained Katie's contact information through mutual connections in an effort to find out if she had seen him. Katie told them she had assumed Nolan left with the group on the Triton. That explanation may be entirely reasonable. It also illustrates how quickly fragmentary information, taken out of context, can shift public perception in a case this charged. The night of July 4th, after calling around and finding no one who had seen Nolan, one of the friends called Christine Wells, Nolan's mother. The conversation lasted approximately 5 to 6 minutes. That same friend then called the United States Coast Guard and remained on the line for 21 minutes. A search was initiated. Nolan Wells's body was eventually recovered from Horn Island. His death set off one of the most intense waves of public reaction this region had seen in years. Speculation spread rapidly across social media platforms. Alleged audio from a distress call made to the Mississippi Department of Marine Resources became the subject of intense scrutiny, with dozens and eventually hundreds of versions circulating online. Some enhanced, some allegedly manipulated, some generated with artificial intelligence. Attorneys for the friends stated plainly that many of these versions were fabricated and warned that those responsible could face legal consequences. The original call, as described by the attorneys, contains no mention of Nolan Wells being on the Triton during the return trip, and no indication that anything had happened to him. The forensic details that emerged from the autopsy only deepened the questions surrounding Nolan's death. A significant subcutaneous mark was documented on the occipital region, the back of the head. Forensic observers noted its location was consistent with a blunt force impact. Crucially, there were reportedly no defensive wounds found on Nolan's hands or arms, no bruising, no abrasions consistent with a struggle. The medical examiner also removed Nolan's lungs and his neck for further examination. The removal of the lungs in a suspected drowning case follows standard procedure. Tissue samples are tested to determine whether water was inhaled and to look for other indicators of cause of death. But the removal of the neck raised immediate and serious questions among legal analysts and forensic observers. Was there evidence of compression, signs of manual strangulation, ligature marks, a damaged or absent hyoid bone? None of those answers have been made public as of the time this story was being reported. The cause of Nolan Wells' death has not been officially confirmed publicly. One of the most significant outstanding issues in this case involves Nolan's personal phone. As of the time these statements were made, that phone had not been turned over to investigators. Civil rights attorney Ben Crump, who was retained by the Wells family, reportedly sent correspondence confirming that the phone remained outside of official investigative custody. The attorneys for the friends expressed open frustration with this, noting that the phone could contain GPS data, communications, and other information that would help establish a clear timeline. They stated their own clients had willingly handed over their devices. Meanwhile, the Triton, the boat at the center of so many questions, had not been subjected to a formal forensic search. No cadaver dogs, no scent dogs, no luminol, no alternative light source examination had reportedly been conducted on the vessel, despite it being made available. Whether law enforcement made a deliberate choice or simply had not yet moved on the boat is unclear. What is clear is that every unexamined piece of evidence is a gap in the public's understanding of what happened to Nolan Wells. The three friends have faced severe personal consequences simply from being publicly associated with this case. Death threats, credible enough to result in at least one arrest, have been directed at Warren, Morgan, and Jax. Their attorneys argue that their willingness to cooperate with investigators, appear publicly, and speak on the record, all while represented by counsel, reflects the behavior of young men with nothing to hide, not individuals attempting to conceal wrongdoing. At the same time, experienced legal observers note that public expressions of cooperation and grief, while often genuine, are not by themselves proof of innocence. Every serious investigation demands that evidence speak louder than statements. A reward of $125,000 has been offered for information leading to the truth of what happened to Nolan Wells. A tip line has been established for anyone with knowledge of the events of July 4, 2025, on or around Horn Island. The witnesses who reportedly saw Nolan alive at 6 o'clock that evening have not come forward publicly. Given the volume of threats and the intensity of online hostility surrounding this case, their reluctance is understandable. But their testimony, if it can be verified, corroborated, and placed before investigators in a formal setting, may represent the single most important piece of information available. Because if Nolan Wells was truly alive at 6 o'clock in the evening, standing on Horn Island, 90 minutes after the Triton left, then the question of who was with him last is the only question that matters. Someone was there. Someone saw something. And somewhere in the space between 6 p.m. and the moment Nolan Wells entered that water, the truth is waiting. Nolan Wells was 18-year-old. He went to Horn Island on the 4th of July to celebrate. His community remembers him as someone who was, by every account, genuinely good. He deserved better than this. His family deserves answers. And the truth, whatever it is, deserves to be told. If you found this video valuable and you want to stay with this case as new information comes to light, subscribe to True Crime Dav right now and leave a like on this video. Every click helps this story reach someone who might have a piece of the puzzle. Justice does not happen in silence, and neither does the truth.